morning. Welcome to Shattering Myths, the program devoted to those of you who have come to realize, or at least open to the realization, that all of the world's religious, political, economic, and military institutions are corrupt. Their leaders liars. Their institutions counterproductive. I am Yahowah. Our number, if you'd like to join us over the next 2 hours, is toll-free 877-300-7645. It seems incredulous, but he said it nonetheless. I don't suppose that anything ever comes out of his mouth that is true. President Barack Obama told U.S. Jewish leaders it was likely that rockets would fall on Tel Aviv if a nuclear deal with Iran was blocked and military action ensued. Wow. So his complete and total capitulation to Iran, whereby he enabled them to maintain their entire infrastructure for building a bomb, and where they were able to maintain and just transfer the nature of their enriched uranium, and with all of their intercontinental ballistic missile technology still intact. He says that if that deal, which enriches Iran by hundreds of billions of dollars, that revitalizes Iran's ability to buy weapons systems, that opens the door for Iran to trade oil for weapon systems, in the midst of a fight for its very survival against Sunni Muslims throughout Iraq and Syria, that if his deal, which gives Iraq the only hope it has of surviving and of withstanding the military assault of the Sunnis, which outnumber them 4-1 and outgun them 25-1, that very deal, if turned down, will cause missiles to rain down on Tel Aviv. Well, it's just the opposite of the truth, I suppose. It fits the ban. When and if the deal is approved. It is obvious, based upon their rhetoric, where Iran will fire its missiles. Tel Aviv.
So is that a threat or a warning?
By the Abominator?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a threat. I don't think Abominator gives warnings. Yeah, it's just a threat. Yeah, you either do this or missiles will rain down on Tel Aviv. He didn't say who was going to fire those missiles, did he?
No.
You know, it almost gives you chills to think that this man is so warped. He is such a Jew hater that if this is turned down because Israel exposes the flaws in the deal and properly educates and influences the U.S. Congress, the Senate, that American missiles would fly into Tel Aviv. You know, there is no question that the Abominator, to get this deal through after the Ayatollah's speech right before its conclusion, where he said that Iran wouldn't be subject to any of the conditions that were being proposed, means that behind closed doors, Kerry and the Abominator promised the Iranians that the moment the deal was signed, that his administration would turn on Israel. And it's the obvious ploy that was deployed. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we send the missiles. And if we don't send the missiles, then, you know, we have provided the missiles to Egypt. We've provided the missiles to Turkey. We have made certain that the Islamic State and the Iranians have missiles. And we have done everything we can to protect Hamas, the PLO. And why would we expect anything else?
I was going to say, even if it isn't us firing them, there probably are missiles.
Yeah, it's
There's
true.
a high likelihood that there are missiles.
A fellow named Mark Langford wrote the following editorial it says Obama walks like a Jew-hater, arms Iran like a Jew-hater, and creates a Palestinian Authority West Bank state like a Jew-hater. He's probably a Jew-hater. At first, Obama said we couldn't talk about his Iranian nuke deal unless it was finalized. Then Obama said we couldn't talk about his Iranian nuke deal until we read it all. Well, and now he's saying that if we want to discuss his Iranian nuke deal, missiles will rain down on Tel Aviv. You know, the funny thing is, though, the Abominator never disclosed the terms and conditions of the nuke deal, even though it's supposed to be negotiated in conjunction with the U.S. Senate. That's the nature of treaties. Now he says that Mike Huckabee's comparison of shipping Jews of Israel into new ovens of the Iranian Auschwitz is ridiculous. How so? What did the Iranians chant to the Ayatollah's speech following the nuclear deal? Death to Israel. Why? Is it obvious or not that Huckabee was right and that Obama is wrong? You know, when the Iranian government came out expressly immediately after the nuclear deal was finalized and described America as its principal enemy, and the Abominator says that we ought to just play along and give them what they want. Perhaps Obama wants to wait until Iran nukes Israel for it to be politically correct to call Iran's wiping Israel off the map a Holocaust. But make no mistake, Obama knows full well that Iran intends to destroy Israel, to wipe it off the map in their parlance, with its Obama-blessed nukes. Does anyone except the American left wing drinking Kool-Aid really believe that Iran will abide by their voluntary protocols under the Vienna announcement? Of course not. Are Obama or any of the European leaders so stupid and naive that they think Iran won't build a bomb just like North Korea did? Does anyone not know that one of Iran's first targets will be to attempt to annihilate Jews and Israel? Of course, Obama knows that Iran will seek to annihilate Israel. So that must be what Obama wants, because he certainly gave them a green light. Obviously, Obama doesn't care if he enables the murder of another 6 million Jews through a Palestinian state's chemical sarin-tipped rocket or an Iranian nuke. It's simple. Obama wants Israel and its Jews offed. What is so different to understand about that, or difficult? Every move Obama has made from the very first moment of his presidency has been to irreparably harm Israel and even Saudi Arabia, and irrevocably empower Iran. It doesn't matter what Obama's specific motivation is. Obama may believe in Farrakhan's and Reverend Wright's virulent Chicago anti-Semitism. Obama may be merely steeped in an anti-British, anti-colonial viewpoint. It's not clear specifically what would cause this man to do what he has done, but what does it matter? All that matters is the results. And let's not forget that Iran's stability in Syria has murdered over 250,000 Syrian Sunnis. The Hiroshima little boy uranium gun-type nuke killed about 150,000 Japanese, and the Nagasaki Fat Man plutonium implosion nuke killed about 40,000 Japanese. So Iran has already killed 2 Hiroshima's worth of Syrian Sunnis, or 6 Nagasaki's worth of Syrian Sunnis. So the $150 billion Obama is giving Iran is actually a weapon of mass destruction in itself. All of the additional hundreds of thousands of dead Sunnis split by Iran's use of $150 billion is on the hands of Obama, Susan Rice, John Kerry, and Samantha Power. What is so lonesome, this enlightened individual writes, is that every word, every sentence Obama says is a lie tainted with a patina of truth. Take, for example, Obama's statement that Iran had enough enriched uranium for 10 nukes, but it will be cut down under the deal. When exactly did Iran enrich 10 nukes worth of uranium? It's not true. Iran enriched the uranium solely in the last 6 years because the CIA's published declassified number had virtually no enriched uranium when Obama became president. And Iran's method to cut down its enrichment is a chemical process that can be easily reversed by a chemical process. And I want you to keep in mind here, there's only 2 things that Obama is getting from the Iranians, and they're both worthless. And Iran gets everything that it wanted. The 2 things that are sacrificed are that they're taking 90% of their highly enriched uranium that has been prepared for a bomb, and they're converting it through a chemical process. They aren't giving it up. They aren't eliminating it. They aren't handing it over to another authority. They're keeping it. They're just putting it through a chemical process. And it's a chemical process that can easily be reversed through another chemical process to convert it right back into weapons-grade uranium. Take a very little energy and very little time to do so. And as for the centrifuges and them being diminished in quantity by 30%, that's part of the routine process. You always call the oldest and least powerful machines and you replace them. I found an interesting article that was presented by Reuters. It does what newspapers like to do a lot, news agencies, and to drill down to a specific case and then use that specific case to tell a bigger story. So let's present it to their way. The individual that they were covering, her name was Mary Beth. She lives in a 3-bedroom house in Wakanda, a village of 14,000 people in Illinois, about 45 miles northwest of the Windy City, Chicago. Her semi-detached brick home is unassuming. Her tax bills are not. The 53-year-old insurance manager gets a real estate tax bill for 20 different local government authorities and a total payout of about $7,000. Now, $7,000 may not sound like a lot to some and may sound like a horrific number to others based upon the value of your home. But these taxes include the village of Wakanda, the Wakanda Park District, the township of Wakanda, the Forest Preserve, the Wakanda Area Public Library District, and the Wakanda Fire Protection District. Then there is the Wakanda Road and Bridge tax, not to be confused with the Road and Bridge tax. Then there is the Wakanda Gravel, or with the Wakanda Special Road Improvement and Gravel Unit, all 3 of which have imposed separate taxes on her and the village's other homeowners. Those 3 road entities come under the auspices of the Wakanda Township. Others there struggle to explain exactly what they each do and why 3 separate taxing bodies are needed. The Wakanda Township Highway Commissioner said they are all for road maintenance. So why 3? I don't know why, he said. It's always been that way. Looking at her property tax bill, she is dismayed. She says it's ridiculous. A lot has been said about the budget crisis faced by Illinois. The state government itself is drowning in $37 billion of debt and has the lowest credit rating and the worst funded pension system among the 50 U.S. states. But at street level, the picture is even more troubling. The average homeowner pays taxes to 6 layers of government. 6 layers. And in Wakanda and many other places, a lot more than just 6. In Ingleside, 50 miles north of Chicago, homeowners pay taxes to 18 different government bodies and agencies. This one individual says, I pay $271 a month just to the school district. I don't have any children. The state is home to nearly 8,500 government units, with 6,026 empowered to raise taxes, by far the most of any U.S. state. Texas, whose population is more than twice that of Illinois, is second highest with about 5,150 local government units. Florida, with a population 54% greater than Illinois, has just 1,600, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Many of these taxing authorities, which rely mostly on property tax for the financing, have their own budget problems. That includes badly underfunded pension funds, mainly for cops and firefighters. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the Achilles heel of America. It's not just that government agencies and government workers are unproductive. It's not just that they're overpaid. It's not just that their healthcare systems are way beyond what is afforded the average private sector worker. Those things are bad, underperformed and grossly overpaid. But the big issue, the Achilles heel of America, the thing that there is no way to resolve anymore, is that when politicians allowed government workers to unionize, and then liberal politicians trying to appease these unions for their votes, approved gargantuan pensions and retirement programs for them so they could opt out of Social Security, which of course is a bankrupt Ponzi scheme. But yet their base pay, or a significant portion thereof, for life. What it did is it grotesquely enriched public employees, but it pushed the problem down the road. It was certain bankruptcy. Anyone who understood the math of economics knew that it would bankrupt the country, but it would be long after the politicians had served in office. It's seldom discussed, but it is the reason why Detroit became a bankrupt city. It was the pensions of the employees. And employees, an exaggeration when you're talking about a government worker. Underworked, overprotected, overpaid. And while those are all bad things and they contribute to the decline of America, the big issue, the Achilles heel, the thing that will certainly bring us down, are the pensions for government workers, and that is what's happened in Illinois. That's why the state is bankrupt. That's why there is no hope of recovery. Now, let's just think about this for a moment so we have some feel for it. This particular article is going to get to the percentage of the problem that is, in fact, it says here, many of the taxing authorities which rely on property tax for their financing have their own budget problems, and that includes badly underfunded pension funds, mainly for cops and firefighters. You see, the difference is with Social Security, it is a pyramid scheme. They're completely underfunded, but they have new and younger people paying the Social Security of older retired people. That's the very nature of a pyramid scheme. You pay the initial people more than they contributed, and then you have new people come in, and rather than they're thinking they're making an investment in their own retirement, but they're not. They're simply paying the retirement of the prior generation.
So you mean it's not going to be there for me?
No, it's not going to be there for you.
Well, sorry, I wasn't going to make it to 65 anyway.
Yep. So here it says the Illinois authorities range from those typical across the nation, such as school and fire districts, to the unusual, for example, districts that raise taxes solely for the purpose of killing mosquitoes, lighting the streets, or maintaining cemeteries. Reuters' analysis of property tax data shows that the sheer number of local government entities and the lack of oversight of their operations can lead to inefficient spending of taxpayer money. Can lead. Can lead. How about does lead? Whether through duplication of services or high overhead, or just lack of performance from those who are overpaid. It leads to a proliferation of pension funds serving different groups of employees, and there are signs that nepotism is rife within government agencies. There is no central repository of data on the size and geographical boundaries of the local government authorities. The state controller does not audit the financial reports of these local government agencies, even though they have the right to tax the citizenry. The states, it's kind of like the U.S. military. The state's revenue department does not keep data on property taxes collected by counties, nor does it track taxes on individual properties. This makes it virtually impossible to determine how many taxing agencies overlap on parcels of land, or how much tax residents in particular areas pay. Unless they are individually surveyed. Because of these gaps and omissions, it's difficult to assess whether multiple layers of government leads to higher taxes. Can you imagine having the right to tax people and you have no accounting of what you're doing? I mean, it's just astonishing how far out of whack we are. I mean, we continue to elect politicians with no common or business sense. And if you ran a business and you charged your customers without providing any accounting or any basis or even a valuable product to them, or anything that in terms of documentation, or you tried to report on your business to your shareholders, and you had absolutely no accounting of how much you collected, from whom you collected it, or what you provided in return, you'd be laughed at. I mean, this is bottom line basics for any business, and the government isn't capable of doing any of it. It's just a completely inept system, guided by inept and blind leaders. On average, Illinois' property taxes are the third highest in the United States at 2% of residential values, only behind in New Jersey and New Hampshire, according to the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. The critics of, by the way, New Hampshire, unlike Illinois and New Jersey, doesn't have a state income tax or a state sales tax. So New Hampshire's numbers, you should not look negatively at New Hampshire because they don't have state income tax or a state sales tax, where Illinois and New Jersey have both. Critics of both the high taxation and the government's structure say that it takes too much of a toll on homeowners, discouraging them from coming into the state and living there. In fact, Illinois has a net exodus of citizens, and it is the net exodus of about 50,000 people leaving the state of Illinois every year.
I know that for certain, because a lot of them are coming up here.
Yeah, Illinois is a bankrupt state. And by the way, Ohio, nearby, just south, is also in the same kind of milieu where there are individual counties and townships have the right to tax your income. And they even have rules that if you live in one county but work in another county, you'll pay the income tax that is charged in the more expensive county.
Remind me if I'm misremembering this.
Yes.
What was the Revolutionary War fought over?
Taxation without representation.
And if you're being taxed
in a county that in a county that you're working in, you can't vote in the county that you're working in. That's taxation without representation.
So,
by the way, the corporation can't vote either, and it's being taxed to death. That's also taxation without representation.
And nobody recognizes this? Nobody, this is just okay with everybody?
Evidently not. It says in many Illinois cities and towns, and by the way, you cannot tax yourself to prosperity, and this is what Illinois is proving. They're taxing themselves into oblivion, not into prosperity. This whole thing of pay your fair share, and we need to tax the rich more, and the way to have the economy grow is to tax the rich more. Yeah, well,
you also can't put your future in the hands of other people.
No.
And Detroit proved that. You can't have your life be put in the hands of other people, and that's what Detroit did. Yeah, and they're bankrupt now.
Well, so as every American with the national government is no different than the state government, and Americans have done this, and we are bankrupt as a result. This reason, many Illinois cities and towns, high taxation still isn't enough to keep up with increasing outlays, especially soaring pension costs. And some services have been cut. For example, in the state's capital of Springfield, pension costs for police and fire alone this year will consume 90% of property tax revenues. Pensions for police and fire. Pensions, not salaries, not equipment, not schools. Pensions for cops and firefighters that are no longer working will consume 90% of the tax revenues. You tell me, how in the world can you do anything productive if 90% of your tax revenues go to pay those who are not working? 90% go to pay two groups of people who are no longer working. And you're supposed to pay for schools? You're supposed to pay for roads? Wow. You're supposed to actually pay for fire and police protection, none of which you're getting with 90% of your outlays. Folks, when I said it's the Achilles heel, you need to appreciate that this is an irresolvable hole that America has crawled into. You can't get out of this one. It's a black hole that is sucking the entire nation in, and maybe all of the West in.
Well, we've effectively lit ourselves on fire because somebody said they were cold.
Well, no, the issue here is it's just the combination of Americans in general. Most Americans do not have a high regard for business. And they elect politicians who speak disparagingly of business. And those politicians, like the Obamator, continually attempt to rob those who are productive and to constrain and control business until business is no longer viable, all so that they can take what business has produced and give it to those who vote for them, who disdain business. And when you continue to do that, and then you continue to provide not only all manner of enhancements, but all manner of exorbitance to those who are underworked by government, which is precisely what brought Greece down. Overworked, underworked, overpaid, overpensioned government workers. And you get to the point that almost 30% of your gross domestic product is government. You can't resolve it. It isn't even possible. And you notice that all that Illinois can do is to cut services that those who are paying the taxes actually want, so that they can pay the pensions of those who are no longer working. This is the fix we find ourselves in. Folks, I don't care how smart you are now. I don't care if you are the Wizard of Wall Street. Even if America were to change its attitude towards business and embrace business as opposed to despise business, as so many Americans do, a majority have a negative view of corporations, that even if we were to educate people effectively as to what businesses do and how they operate and the value that they provide, even if we were to successfully do that, which I think is impossible now, we are so far gone. We've made so many promises to so many, and the debt is so large, and the burden, the mandated burden of Social Security, Medicare that's unfunded, and these unfunded pensions take our collective national and state debt beyond $17 trillion to hundreds of trillions of dollars. Welcome back. This is interesting. The article goes on to speak of Sam Yingling, who was a state representative until 2012. He was the supervisor of Avon Township, which is just north of Chicago. He said that when he left the township 2 years ago, the supervisor's office had annual overheads from salaries and benefits of $120,000. He said that its sole mandated statutory duty was to administer just $10,000 of living assistance to poor residents. So they spent $120,000 to redistribute $10,000 of taxpayer money. And when you realize that it costs $120,000 to distribute $10,000 of taxpayer money, you are wholly and completely bankrupt. Now we have Rob having called in from Michigan. Rob, I understand that your wife is a government employee.
Yeah, she is, Craig. She's been one for about 20 years now, actually. She works for the Human Department, DHS, Department of Human Services.
Okay, all right. So, redistribution of wealth department.
Basically.
Yeah, that's great. And does she know that she's overpaid?
Actually, she does.
Yeah, okay. So
but the point I wanted to make was, even though that she's overpaid, the job sucks the life out of you. So really what they're doing is they're paying for you to sacrifice yourself, because she knows what she's doing is not helping.
Right.
When she first got into it years ago, it seemed like they were doing something good, and she was excited, and in the accounting department, because she doesn't have a lot of contact.
Right. But she knows that the redistribution of wealth is actually making people more dependent and more miserable and less responsible. So it's counterproductive. And she probably also knows, being in accounting, that just like in this case where they spent $120,000 to redistribute $10,000 of somebody else's money, they didn't spend $120,000 to make 10. They spent $120,000 to redistribute somebody else's $10,000. That what the state and the feds are doing is stunningly ineffective, inefficient.
It's absurd. It just doesn't make any sense at all. We've gone crazy.
Yeah, we've gone crazy, and there's really no way to fix the problem, because there isn't even 1% of government leaders, political leaders, that have any business sense, and the average citizen doesn't have enough business sense to elect leaders that do have business sense. And so we just have this hatred towards corporations, and what it's doing is bankrupting the country and causing the government to do more and more inefficiently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they give, as a state worker, you get a ton of time off. I mean, she gets like probably about a month and a half off a year.
Right.
Personal days, sick days.
Right.
Vacations, different things like that.
Yeah, but great pension, great health care, and great salary, and she can't be fired. I mean, it would take an act of Congress for her to lose her job.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely, it's unbelievable compared to the private world.
Oh, of course.
It's just,
she does not have to perform and to contribute more than her compensation to keep her job. And
what it is nobody does, and even their supervisors. I mean, they're just kind of there spending time.
Right.
Collect money, you know.
But it drains the life out of you. Right. It's got to drain the life out of you, because what you know is that you're not doing something worthwhile for the money that you're making. We're in private sector. The vast majority of people, are committed, that they understand that what they're producing has a value, and that they're compensated based upon the value that they're creating. But just the opposite in the public sector, and it's just like receiving a welfare check. To a large degree, it sucks the life out of you.
Yeah. Well, she deals with, we're a welfare state pretty much, Michigan here, especially in this area.
Oh, yeah.
Area. There's north of Detroit. I mean, it's Creek all the way up to Saginaw. But,
and taxing productive corporations to oblivion, and the most productive individuals to oblivion, and redistributing the wealth. How did Michigan turn out really prosperous and growing as a result?
They moved all the jobs out of the country.
Right. Well, certainly out of the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it became impossible to conduct business in a state that was regulated by that kind of politician. So when it becomes impossible, businesses will find another way, and they were forced to do it by their politicians. We'll have to talk about cannabis another day. Please call in. I'm actually interested in the topic.